Okay.
And welcome back to Down the Aisle Wrestling Podcast. It's with great pleasure, honor, and so happy to receive Jimmy Korderas, former referee for the World Wrestling Entertainment, WWF even back then. Jimmy, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Kevin. Thank you for having me on.
First of all, it's Royal Rumble in the next couple days. What's your first thought when you think about the Royal Rumble?
I always, it's kind of like, other than WrestleMania, obviously WrestleMania is the biggest event of the year, but the Royal Rumble is almost like my second favorite because it's the most fun because it's at times, especially this year, and I don't mean to jump ahead too much, but it's so unpredictable, and there's some a lot every year you get some kind of surprise in the Royal Rumble, which is kind of cool, but it sets the tone for WrestleMania and it sets the direction, and that's what I love most about it.
You spoke about it's you can't predict what's going to happen this year. When you're looking at it this year, did you expect with especially with this Monday, last Monday? Do you know where it's going? Do you think it's going to be Reigns? Do you think it's going to be Bryan? There's a couple of different storyline. I'm all confused. How are you feeling right now? Just a couple of days before the Rumble.
Yeah, exactly. Like you, it's up in the air. I can go either way. Obviously, Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns are the two favorites to win the Rumble, and you can make a case for both of them. Just like in the main event, the triple threat, you can make a case for all three guys winning that match as well. But I like the fact that it is not as predictable, and a lot of wrestling fans, one of their biggest criticisms is that, oh, wrestling is too predictable sometimes. And I don't have a problem with it being predictable. It's the way you tell the story and how you get there, which is important for me. But I like the fact that sometimes it can be unpredictable, and this Sunday at the Royal Rumble, definitely unpredictable.
And you mentioned it. There's many different possibilities where they can go with Reigns, with Bryan, with Ambrose, Wyatt, with everyone, especially with all the old school that happened on Monday. Do you feel this year the kind of like put the reset button? It doesn't feel as the Rumble itself. It feels more unpredictable, but more up in the air. It feels like there's a an excitement that was almost forgotten in the last couple years. What do you think brought that this year?
I think a lot of things. I think newer superstars are starting to emerge. Um, there's nothing wrong with the established guys. Obviously, the guys like John Cena, the Randy Ortons, the veterans that are there, will have their spot, and it's up to the young guys to. They're not going to give up their spot. It's the young guys got it. That's the whole thing. And there's this misconception where everybody says, well, they're not given the opportunity. If you notice this year, the opportunity is there. It's just like guys are reaching for it. They're grabbing it. Look at Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins has become the uh, biggest heel in the company right now, and he's doing it. He's doing a great job. You look at guys. Daniel Bryan is hugely over with the audience in a very organic way. It wasn't forced. It just worked out that way. Dean Ambrose is doing great. For all the criticisms for Roman Reigns, I think he's doing a great job. If you here in Canada, we got to watch SmackDown, of course, a day earlier than the United States.
Hmm.
And if you saw him last night in his promo in his interview with Renee Young backstage, he was fine on the mic. He seemed more comfortable. He seems to be getting into a groove, and that's the way he is in the ring. So the younger guys are starting to step up. So you're seeing almost like they haven't taken over yet, but they're poised to start taking over from the veterans. And like I said, it's up to them to grab that spot, not to be handed that spot.
Yeah, just a quick side note. I think you're right. I think the new generation now, compared to the one about the Ziggler, Sheamus, the one a couple of years ago, I think this one have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and they're out to prove themselves. Which the other generation were maybe a little too nice and didn't want to do any waves. Those guys, they don't care. They're gonna take it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree totally.
Going back to the Royal Rumble, and as a former referee, I know you've been involved in many of them. How's your feeling? How do you expect those matches? Are you a little scared because there's a lot of bodies, a lot of limb in per square feet, and you can get injured quickly? How do you approach the Royal Rumble as a referee?
Basically, it's more like you got to have your head kind of like on a swivel and pay attention to what's going on. At the beginning, obviously, when there's fewer guys in the ring, it's not as much of an issue. But once the ring starts filling up with guys, you kind of pay attention. I remember one year, another former referee, Jack Doan, after an elimination, he was, you know, outside the ring looking after the talent that just got eliminated. Someone else got eliminated right behind him and landed right on top of him, and actually he suffered a mild concussion from it. So you got, it's not only obviously the risks are there for the talent in the ring, but even as a referee, if you're not paying attention and somebody's flying over that top rope, you can get hurt.
That's exactly what was my thinking because you're always close to the ring on the outside, close to the barricade, but there's people flying up in the air, landing left and right, and it doesn't take a lot to receive a boot to the face or a smack across the face out of nowhere.
Oh, absolutely, and it could happen just like that too.
What's the greatest moment that's etched in your memory, Jimmy, about the Royal Rumble? What's the most magical moment that is for you, the Royal Rumble?
Oh, there's so many of them. I mean, like it was fun back in 2001 when Drew Carey came out as a surprise entrance into the Royal Rumble and was face to face with Kane, and he kind of dropped all that money in the ring, and I had to scoop it all up. I didn't keep it, contrary to what some people think. I didn't keep it. I gave it back. But that Cena coming back in 2008 when he had the surgery on his pectoral, torn pectoral. And that year they were worried that he was going to miss WrestleMania, but him coming back even at the Royal Rumble so early, he's just a physical freak of nature when it comes as a physical specimen in recovery. You know what? To be honest with you, my favorite was probably 2005 when we had again, John Cena and Dave Bautista went over the top rope at the same time. Unfortunately, it was also the night the chairman blew out both his quads storming to the ring. But you know what? That was very exciting. It was, again, something that wasn't...
Confusing, too. I watched it last night.
Because it wasn't in the cards, it just turned out that way. And it actually added more excitement than what was originally scheduled. So,
it's funny you mentioned this, Jimmy, because I watched it last night. So it's really fresh in my mind. I see Vince coming down the aisle, throwing the jacket, being so mad and gesticulating, and then sliding in the ring and just slam. Both quads just give up, and he's just standing there. And for that couple minutes, people are just, wow, just confused what is going on, and he's in pain, but the poker face on that man, wow.
Oh, yeah. And here's the thing, too. We were confused, too, because we didn't know. We had no idea what was going on. He wasn't going to tell us in the ring, obviously. But the amazing thing is when he restarted the match, he slid out under the bottom rope, and he walked back on two torn quads. I mean, obviously, he wasn't walking well, but he walked back to the back on two torn quads. That man is just, yeah, he's not gonna show any fear, any pain, anything.
That's determination for you. If you think about the closing moments of the Rumble this Sunday, what could be your prediction, Jimmy?
For me, this is my prediction, and I know a lot of fans want to see Daniel Bryan win the Rumble, especially considering what happened last year. Even though he did get his WrestleMania moment, actually two WrestleMania moments last year, because he had the opening match against Triple H, which was fantastic, and then, of course, going off the air with Daniel Bryan in the WWE Championship. He's already over huge with the crowd, and there's this weird misconception with the audience sometimes that if you're not the champion, you're being held down, but that's not the case. This guy is already over, and in my opinion, it's a testament to him that he doesn't need the championship to be hugely popular. So this is the time to build someone else, and I think you can do that with a Roman Reigns if the vocal minority out there doesn't, crap on him and doesn't give him a chance, because I think the opportunity is there to make another big star, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Would you use Daniel Bryan to get other people over then? Because Daniel Bryan, the fact that he's over, I don't say make him lose, but partner him up with somebody. Use his fame and charisma maybe to help somebody else get to that level.
Yeah, you can do that, but in my thinking, I think going forward, maybe into WrestleMania, because I know a lot of people like the David and Goliath dynamic of Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar, but you can get that same David and Goliath story told with Daniel Bryan versus someone like a Rusev, and
True.
Rusev and him challenging Rusev for the United States Championship, making him tap out, being the first guy to make Rusev tap out at WrestleMania. And obviously some people say, well, it's kind of a demotion for Daniel Bryan to go from WWE champion to US champion. I look at it the other way. I think it actually elevates the United States
Yeah.
championship to have someone like Daniel Bryan holding it.
And right now, it's
So
probably the
I
only
think it's a
title that's.
win-win.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's a win-win. It's probably the only title that's worth something now too, with the fact that the WWE Championship was out of TV for months. The Intercontinental Championship is a losing championship, so you get the only U.S. title left.
Yeah, but again, even with the WWE Championship, I get the frustration with Brock Lesnar not being there every week and stuff like that. I'm okay with him not being there every week because it only works for someone like Brock. Do you know what I mean? If it was somebody else, if it was a regular superstar on the roster who's like a full-time guy, it wouldn't work. But because Brock is who he is, and he's a special athlete. He's a one of a kind, superstar. And despite the fact that he's gone for long stretches of time, when he comes back, you see the reaction he gets. It's unbelievable. So
It
with
is.
him, it kind of works, but with anybody else, I don't think it would.
You mentioned Brock, and here's the last question before I let you go, Jimmy, and it's going to be about Brock. It's not if he's going to stay or not. There was hints, huge hint Monday, that he's going to become a babyface baby. So it's going to be interesting to see how they pull it off and how they do the official turn. And I think they have a shot of putting Brock Lesnar over as much as he ever been in his entire career. How do you see Brock in the next 2 months?
Well, obviously on Monday night, definitely the seeds were planted because we saw him, go after the biggest heel, Seth Rollins. But at the same time, with John Cena involved in the mix, it's the Philly crowd. It's going to be interesting Sunday because the Philly crowd's probably going to be anti John Cena. They
Oh
always
yeah.
are. I'm, just on a side note, I'm a big Cena supporter. I don't get the hate, but that's just me. Um, Brock, I think, could work as a babyface because, again, he's that special kind of athlete. And as much as you want to hate him, even as a heel, you look at him and you just realize that, man, he's just an ass kicking machine. And people like that nowadays. You know what I mean? That's. You look at Stone Cold. What did he do? He just stomped mud holes in people, and people like that. And Brock is kind of like that lone wolf where he doesn't have any friends. He's kind of like an island unto himself, and that works. People like that sort of thing. That's why I think, going again off the rails a little bit, a guy like Dean Ambrose has a huge opportunity to succeed because he's kind of like that lone wolf kind of guy. But for Brock, it can work as a baby face as well. The seed is definitely planted. I hope they don't separate him and Paul Heyman because it was done a few years ago when Heyman turned on Brock and sided with the Big Show
Yeah.
again at the Royal Rumble. I think they're planting that seed to maybe get people thinking that direction, but I hope it doesn't happen.
Jimmy Korderas, thank you very much for taking the time to being part of Down the Aisle Wrestling podcast today, and have a great Royal Rumble this Sunday.
You too. Thanks for having me on, Kevin.
We thank you for listening to Down the Aisle Wrestling Podcast with Robbie Mack and Kevin Laramie on Stitcher Radio. Stitcher Radio, the podcast application taken to the level of perfection. Subscribe to the show on Stitcher Radio. Listen to all the Off the Woodwork Studios family shows, but especially Down the Aisle Wrestling Podcast. And that, my friends, is just perfect.